Mr. Wise, I believe we are ready to start the preliminaries.
Okay. At this time, the Committee on Parole will be called to order. Today's date is November the 2nd, 2020. The time is 8:46 a.m. My name is Jim Wise. I'll be serving as chairman today. Also on the panel today is Mr. Victor Jones and also Ms. Pearl Wise. The panel is conducting hearings today by the Zoom technology in response to the governor's proclamation relative to the COVID-19 and public hearing. We choose this platform so it allows observation and input of members. Support staff at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. Would you state your name?
Teresa Dawn.
Leah Roten.
John Poche. Ray Eaglin. Francis Abbott.
The staff at David Wade. Would you state your name?
Warden Jerry Goodwin.
Tammy Lynn.
Moore, Macy Holly.
Scott Cox. That's everybody.
At this time, we'll be getting ready for Mr. Jonathan K. Dagenhart. It be the first case.
He's in the room with Mr. Wise at the table, ready to go.
Good morning, Mr. Wise. This is a case for Jonathan Dagenhart, DOC number 476338. We have a number of participants here this morning, and I'm going to announce each one of them. The first participants we have are here in support. We have the offender's sister, Ms. Pam Dagenhart. She would like to speak on his behalf. And we also have David Melville, his spiritual advisor, who would like to make a brief comment as well. Here in opposition this morning, we have a number of opposition participants. We have Ms. Grace Blake. She is the mother of a victim. We have Ms. Mary Funderburk, also a mother of victims. We have Ms. Maggie Loper, who is a direct victim. We have Mr. Don Loper, who is the parent of a victim. We have Ms. Rachel Weed, who is a direct victim, and she will have Ms. Julie Kalura from our Lavo office speak for her this morning. We have Ms. Mary Acklin, who is a direct victim, and she would like to speak. And we have Leon Fitzgerald from the Victims Assistance Office. She's the director of the Caddo VAC office there. All victims would like to make a brief statement this morning, with the exception of Ms. Mary Funderburk. She will speak if needed, but all other victims have said that they would like to speak briefly this morning.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Leah. Good morning, each and every one. Today, our hearings will be started. Sir, if you would, state your name and DOC number.
My name is Jonathan Dagenhart, DOC number 476338.
John, and on today's panel, members today will be Ms. Pearl Wise, and she'll be assigned to your case. Also, Mr. Victor Jones and myself, Jim Wise, I'll be chairing today. I will give each and every one of y'all a chance to speak at the time given. At this time, you are a first offender, molestation of a juvenile, 4 counts. Your sentencing dates was June 18, 2004. You were sentenced on count 1, 2, 4 for 10 years, 3 for 15 years, 1 consecutive count of 2, 3, and 4 run concurrent. Your parole date is November the 6th, 2011, with a good time not eligible and a full term date of August the 1st, 2027. At this time, Ms. Pearl Wise will be asking you some questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if you can see me or not, because I think we're on 2 different screens.
I can see you.
Okay, good. I want to inform you of some information that we have before we begin our interview. I just want to put this on the record that this panel voted to rehear your case on April the 14th of 2020, and so that's why we're back here today. And it is mandated that you receive a hearing when you're parole eligible every 10 years, and so that pretty much set today's date. In this process, we reach out to the law enforcement community where you were convicted to get their opinion about early release. And I want to inform you that all entities are opposed. That's the judge, the DA's office, the sheriff's office, and the police department. There's nothing you can do about that. But I just want to inform you of that's information that we receive. I also want to advise you that I want to stay on the record that you have completed all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment program. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Are you working as a facilitator now?
Yes, ma'am, I'm a facilitator for phase 4 right now.
Okay. And you've been doing that for how long?
As soon as I completed phase 4, and when they finished that, I began to facilitate. When they did the phase 5 pilot program, I also went through that as a participant and as a facilitator. When that phase 5 pilot program ended, I went back to be a facilitator.
Great, great. Okay, great. And the records I have show that, and call out for the record how long you've served.
I've been here 16 years plus a few months. I don't know the exact amount.
Okay, I'm thinking you have served, okay, 16 years of a 25-year sentence. And in that time, you've had 3 write-ups. And your last one was August of 2020 of 2020. Is that correct?
I believe my last write-up was in 2008.
It was 2008, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll look that up. And our records do show that in our sex offender grid, you do score low. I'm putting some information on the record. You have a college degree in sociology from Centenary College. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
In 1993, and you graduated high school in 1987. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so I saw somewhere in the record where the interstate compact was pending. Has it actually been submitted, or do you know?
It has been submitted. The parole officer, I believe his name is Tim Belcher in Tennessee, but he hasn't been to the house to do the home visit yet. It was approved in 2011, so we expect it'll be approved this time also.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Okay. Oh, the compact was approved last year. You just didn't get parole.
That's correct.
Okay. And I do want to inform you, because this is kind of different. The district attorney's office sent the transcript of your court hearing and your court conviction, at which time you admitted that you were a pedophile. So can you speak to that now, where you stand today?
As far as I understand it, that type of thing, that status does not change. It's just a matter of going through treatment, learning what your risk factors are, and learning what interventions are required to address those risk factors. And I believe that I've done everything that's available here at David Wade to address those risk factors so that I'll be able to be released safely.
What are your risk factors?
The primary risk factors that I showed back then that would continue to need to be addressed for the rest of my life would be, first and foremost, not having an adequate support system. At that point, I was far away from my family. I didn't have really any friends. The people that I knew from Centenary had gotten married, moved away, gotten jobs, and I was pretty much out of touch with the world. My spiritual foundation was pretty much dead. I had turned away from God and stopped going to church. All of those activities that I was raised on, I had walked away from that. And the small peer counseling group that I had been relying on for support had essentially broken up. The woman that taught co-counseling to me, her husband, and several other people had moved away. So that risk factor of not having an adequate support system will have to be addressed. Would be living with my family, attending 12-step groups. Of course, counseling is required on parole in Tennessee, so I'll be doing that. And I'll also be going back to church, which I've been doing since I've been here at David Wade.
Okay, oh, good. Because that's one of the things that was interesting about your case, in the fact that you had enrolled in counseling. but yet and still, you continue to participate in this kind of behavior. So that was concerning to me. Go ahead.
The only type of counseling that I had been in was a peer counseling group. It was not sex offender counseling. It was just general peer counseling that anybody could participate in, but it was not professional people. So I don't think.
I thought it was termed co-counseling.
Yes, ma'am. The long name is reevaluation co-counseling, but it's not.
Okay.
It's not professional counseling. It's just amateur folks getting together to take turns listening to each other.
Oh, okay. No, that's interesting. That's interesting. I also call out for the record some of the other programs you completed since you've been incarcerated.
Okay. I'll go from memory. Other than all of the sex offender treatment programs, I completed Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian 12-step recovery program.
Just call out the name of them. I think we are all familiar with the are. Okay. I just want to put it on the record what you've taken.
Okay. I completed the Alternatives to Violence Project, basic, advanced training for trainers workshops, and became a facilitator for that. I completed the core base spiritual reentry program in the chapel and became a facilitator for that.
Okay.
I completed stress management 1 and 2 and anger management in the mental health building. I went through the Kairos program and attend and participate in that in the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And I've served in the chapel music ministry in several different musical groups there. I've also completed educational programming. I got a horticulture degree from VOTEC here, and I've taken 2 correspondence courses, one in electrician and the other in landscaping and gardening.
Okay. Now, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about your substance abuse history, drugs or alcohol. Speak to that for a minute.
I've never used illegal drugs in my life or had a drug problem. As far as alcohol goes, when I was in college, my first few years, I drank occasionally, socially, the fraternity type activities. And that's basically it. I was not an alcoholic at that time either. And I gave up alcohol before I graduated.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, as I was going over here, you were initially charged with 10 counts molestation to a juvenile. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And you pled guilty to 4 counts.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I did.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. As I look back on the institution sheet, your last disciplinary write-ups, you've had 3 disciplinary write-ups. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's right.
And your last disciplinary write-up was on 3/27/08 for Rule 28.
Yes, I think that's correct.
Okay. I see you completed a lot of classes. You've done a lot of positive things here. At this time, I don't have any other questions. At this time, Mr. Victor Jones, do you have any questions?
The only question I have for Ms. Dagenhart is, what could you possibly say with all the opposition we have from our victims and law enforcement and everything, and I can understand why they're in opposition, but what could you possibly say to maybe change their mind?
I doubt that there's anything that I could say to change their mind, but I would say that I'm sorry. I apologize for what I did. I know I've hurt a lot of people very deeply and caused pain and terrible consequences in their lives. And there's nothing that I can do to change what I did. All I can do is try to change myself and use the resources available to me here to make sure that I'm as ready as possible at whatever point I'm allowed to leave here, whether it's soon or not soon.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, Warden Goodwin, anything you'd like to say to the board?
Nothing you hadn't already covered. Mr. Wise, Dagenhart has been here for 16 years. He's 51 years old now. He's participated in numerous programming and very active on our faith-based programming. His letters of commendation from Dr. Cohen as far as participation in sex offender treatment programming. He's done an excellent job as a facilitator in that program. And as far as his behavior here at the institution, he's been a model prisoner throughout his incarceration, with the exception of those 3 write-ups he got in 2008. Otherwise, he's been a model prisoner. He's got a long 16-year history of displaying very positive behavior within the institution. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodwin. At this time, in support today, Ms. Pam Dagenhart, would you like to speak on his behalf? Unmute your mic.
Yes, I would like to. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Pam Dagenhart. John is my younger brother, and I'm here speaking on behalf of myself and my parents to tell you that we do want and need him here in Tennessee, where we live in Oak Ridge. We have community support and family member support, people who know what happened and plan to be a part of his team when he comes home. We will provide shelter, food guidance, supervision, accountability, and will help him in any way that we can. I know 17 years ago, we were all very shocked and dismayed to learn of John's crimes. We weren't raised that way at all. And it just wasn't a Jonathan that we knew. He had gotten separated from us, as he spoke of, and it was very painful to hear. I myself have worked with children up till about 20 years ago, most of my life, and I hurt for those families. I can't know what it feels like, but as much as I'm able, I do hurt for them and pray for their healing and their ability to move on in life. We can't take back what he did, but we can move forward and make sure that the isolation, the hiding and the secrecy and the separation will not be allowed again, ever, when he's here. We've seen John grow, mature, and become a stronger Christian, and to learn about his mistakes and to change those. You've heard of the programs that he's done. We'll make sure he's never around children, never unsupervised, even, if they happen to be in the crowd. We desperately need him here to help with our family. It's just me and my parents, and my dad has type 1 diabetes and Parkinson's disease, and my mom and I are primary caregivers. We're going to keep him busy whenever you are able to see fit to let him come home. He has part-time employment with my company. We take care of older adults, but they do not come here to the house. We go to where they are. And he can do office type work here without contact with them. We have also people lined up locally through the Kairos program, that's how we met them, who have promised to interview him, feel sure he'll be employed, until they do the actual interview. Of course, they can't say yes, but they have said, as far as they can tell from his record and his work record, they will hire him. And they have a 0.3% recidivism rate and work with felons. Frequently one of the employers. We love Jonathan and we miss him terribly. And we would do, whatever we need to make that a safe environment. Our pastors, as I said, and community members, friends of mine, know what happened. And as hard as it would be to do, if he came here and fell backwards or whatever, I would turn him in. It would break my heart, but if I don't think that will ever happen, or I wouldn't want him to come home, I would never want to endanger anyone. And I'm a Christian myself and live that out daily. And I would do that if the point came where that needed to happen, but I don't believe it will. I believe he has turned his life around and risen from some things that happened terribly when he was a youth. So Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, Mr. David Melville, the spiritual advisor, will be speaking. Mr. David, unmute your mic. Ms. Pam, you would mute your mic back.
Oh, okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I am David Melville. I'm an ordained United Methodist pastor who has traveled with Jonathan from the very beginning, over 16 years ago, on this sad journey through his arrest and the trial, and of course, throughout all the years of incarceration. And I just want to testify this morning as far as my best personal and professional opinion, working with many, many prisoners, that he is a changed person. When I met Jonathan, he was very defiant, in denial, stubborn, and selfish. And I began to notice a big, big difference after the first few years of prison. And he is a changed person. He's a changed person because he went back to the roots that he grew up in Oak Ridge at the Methodist Church there. He's a changed person because he took advantage of, not all prisoners do, but he took advantage of all the courses that the correctional system offered in terms of addiction recovery, and in terms of secular education, and also spiritual opportunities for growth. The music, the choirs and ensembles he's been a part of, and all of the chapel services, which I think has also been corroborated by the warden. I salute the correction system for offering all of these courses. I think in this case, the term corrections facility is accurate. He is a corrected person, a redeemed person, and deserves to be back out in society and can help society. Just because a person changes, I know many, many prisoners find God in prison and do change for the better, but they still must be held accountable. I believe that. However, in this case, I think 15 plus years is enough. The only other thing I would offer this morning is I do want to speak to the victims and the parents and ask that in their hearts, one day, if not today, one day they're able to find forgiveness for Jonathan. If they do, it'll lift a great burden off him and his family and off themselves. I pray for your complete healing one day if it hasn't occurred. And I pray that one day you will be able to pray for Jonathan as he prays for you. We're all in this together. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. At this time, I see some speakers of the victims would like to speak. I'll start off with Grace Ann Black, the victim's parent, would like to speak. If you want to go ahead and speak first.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. I am the mother of Maggie Grace Loper, the youngest victim of Jonathan Dagenhart, and I spoke on behalf of all of the victims at the original trial. Before I read my speech, I'd like to make a comment that David Melville never once spoke prayerfully for the victims. At the onset of this, we had no spiritual counsel or guidance. Pam Dagenhart, on the witness stand at Jonathan Dagenhart's character hearing, did not believe that he was harming the children. So that needs to be stated right clear from the beginning, that in the beginning, these people were not in support of the victims. Jonathan Dagenhart deceived family, friends, co-workers, agencies, parents, grandparents, and sadly, he deceived children. Jonathan stole the innocence from unsuspecting precious souls, children, trusting him to care for them, to play with them, to help them, to provide them safe shelter as their parents trusted in him to protect them as a caretaker. Jonathan drugged our children, your children, the community's children. He removed their clothing. He filmed them. And he took photos of our children. He touched our children. He touched them, asked them to touch themselves. Jonathan Dagenhart told the children to take vitamins. He gave them drugs. He gave him ultimate control. And one of the scariest things of all, that could have killed our children. Let that sink in. He was drugging our innocent children. My daughter, Maggie Grace, was the youngest known victim. I say known. We do not know. She is now a survivor. She was a few months shy of being 3 years old when he, Jonathan Dagenhart, tried to have her swallow pills, drugs intended to knock her out. She could not swallow the pills. She was too young and didn't know how. Instead, he told her to chew up the grown-up candy. She tried, she got sick and scared. He still offended her in ways that are beyond hard to imagine. You see, my daughter was able to tell us what he did, even described the pain, and even told us just how scared she was. She was even able to tell us what she said to him. She said, "No, ma'am, no, sir, may not." But he did not stop. And she has never forgotten. I will never forget. My heart is forever broken. Honestly, it is destroyed, and it is filled with inconsolable pain. Pain for the loss of my daughter's innocence, the loss of my family nucleus, the loss of my marriage to her father, Don Loper. And he is a good man. The pain for the unrelenting worry for all of the children and the family sense of peace that he stole. I need the board to be aware that Jonathan had in his possession industrial-sized lubricant, hundreds of photos of unclothed children, considered child erotica, bags upon bags of children underwear, hundreds of videos of children, badges of authority used to falsely identify himself for when he would pose as a reporter so he could take pictures of children and have access to them at sporting events, books on the behaviors and laws of pedophiles, and dildos. Jonathan Dagenhart, at the time of his arrest, was a teacher, a co-counselor, a children's youth minister, was in the process of trying to become a foster parent, and had applied to become a CASA volunteer. He had embraced and embedded himself in all aspects of our community to offend the most vulnerable. We know of 19 children in the investigation, 4 represented in the prosecuted case. However, while Jonathan spoke on his own behalf as a character witness, he himself described encounters he had with children as a teenager and a very young adult. God only knows how many children have truly been offended, raped, sodomized, photographed, filmed, and drugged. One thing that is not discussed is the financial strain this has put on families. The loss of income due to missing work, for court delays over and over again, doctor visit, police visits, days of work missed. Because you are mentally overwhelmed, too sick to function, cost of therapy, financially, this can ruin families, and at times it ruined mine. This man's actions he himself said at the sentence hearing were actions of love for the children. These actions still hurt my family daily. We sadly still hurt even when we outwardly look to this world as if we're functioning, doing great things. We are sad. We're angry. We're forever tainted. Please do not allow him one extra moment out before his sentence is up. It will only give him time to harm more innocent souls. While he was out before his sentencing, he was around children. Judge Garrett spoke of that at her sentencing. I need you to remember he used drugs. It takes that to a whole nother level. We know that our daughter was sodomized. Something was inserted into her body. These are acts that I believe he cannot ever change. I am begging you to consider not releasing him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, Miss Maggie Loper, victim, if you would, Miss Grace, mute your mic. Maggie, if you would, unmute your mic.
Hi.
No, how you doing?
Not too well, if I'm going to be quite honest. I am Maggie Grace Loper, Jonathan Dagenhart's youngest known survivor, because I refuse to call myself a victim. Jonathan Dagenhart came into my family through church, friendship, and his teaching position. We trusted him. I trusted him. And this is a photo of my family. This is us 2 years, going through 2 years of the trial. This is me when I was 5. I was 2.5 when he harmed me. So that's a visual of me as a child. And one night, our trust was ripped apart and our lives were forever changed. My parents were told by doctors and therapists that because I was not even 3 at the time of my sexual assault, the horrors I suffered at Jonathan Dagenhart's hands would eventually fade from my memory. I am here to say that I never forgot. For the very moment my toddler body was an abused man, it has been ingrained in my memory. My youthful innocence was ripped away from me as he used his hands on my body, my childish stature. Any sliver of innocence that I had was destroyed by that man when he used my childhood toys on my body and inserted them in my body. He pleasured himself using my flute. I still remember my toddler-like body being bent over. At the age of 2, my innocence was stolen. I know that you, the parole board, have access to and have reviewed my case details. So today I would like to share with you how my sexual assault has affected my life. I have spent the last 17 years rebuilding the woman I am today. In high school, from elementary to even high school, I was fearful of boys and men alike. While other young girls were able to hug their male counterparts in primary school, I was unable to even look them in the eyes at times. Anytime I went to a friend's house for a sleepover, I made sure to steer clear of my friends' fathers for the fear of the unknown. In middle school, I was so ashamed of my body and the sexual trauma I went through that I decided I was unworthy for a boyfriend or any sexual relationship. Going through middle school sex ed, I knew what had happened to me, and I could never see myself being with anyone because of him. My freshman year of high school, I had a peer that was the spitting image of Jonathan Dagenhart. I purposely reroute my everyday walk to class for 4 years throughout high school just to avoid seeing him. He caused me uncertainty and fear, and he was not Jonathan Dagenhart, he was someone who looked like him. I remember a time I was at a restaurant with my mother in Gulf Shores, Alabama on vacation, a time that should be joyous for a middle schooler. When my server had certain features that reminded me of Jonathan Dagenhart, I, as a 12, 13-year-old girl, had a panic attack in the middle of a restaurant because of him. I am now a 21-year-old young woman that has dedicated my precious time healing the wounds of my past through self-reflection and counseling. I still, to this day, suffer from effects in my past. Anytime a person, or female, has the small of my back, time stands still as I go ice cold and I am brought to relive my assault. Just a year ago, I was at a friend's house and her father brushed by me and touched the small of my back. And I was holding a gospel and I dropped it and it shattered everywhere. Because when he accidentally brushed by me, all I could feel was Jonathan Dagenhart's hands all over my body. I have since found the person I will marry. While this should be nothing but a joyous occasion for most, It has brought up numerous difficult conversations regarding my comfort level with sexual interactions and our future together. I already fear for my future children. I will never trust my children alone with any man, and that includes my father, my stepfather, and my fiance's own father, and they are all wonderful men, but I will never be able to trust them alone with any man. Jonathan Dagenhart held positions over children, not only by working in a church, by fostering children, and having claimed to work for a nanny company. He was also a teacher, and let me emphasize that he was a teacher. He put himself and surrounded himself by young children. By holding such powerful positions of authority over children, he was able to take advantage of the most vulnerable youth. I ask for you to deny the monster behind doc number 476338 parole, not just for me, but for any young children he will harm in the future, because it is not possible to make sure he avoids children for the rest of his life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, we have Mr. Don Loper be a victim. We'll give you just a second to speak here. If you would, unmute your mic, Mr. Loper. I think he's on by phone.
Okay. Can you hear me?
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Donald Loper. I am the father of Maggie Grace Loper, Jonathan's youngest known victim, and I'm a middle school teacher with 26 years experience and currently employed in Bossier Parish. Jonathan doesn't know this, but he's impacting children today because I had to take the day off once again to address his crimes. I'm going to try to stick to the facts. Mr. Dagenhart is a violent offender. He perpetrated upon children. He is a sexual predator. A few moments ago, Mr. Dagenhart stated his risk factors were separation from family, separation from friends. There is no guarantee he would be able to avoid these factors if he is paroled. In fact, these factors will doubtlessly occur again. Mr. Dagenhart has been proven in court to be a devious, deceptive, manipulative, and dangerous person who needs to be incarcerated to protect the public. He continues to pose an unacceptable risk of harm to others, especially children. Due to these facts, I request the parole of Jonathan Dagenhart be denied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Loper. At this time, Ms. Julie, do you have anything you'd like to say? Unmute your mic.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wise. I'm going to read a statement.
Mic, Loper, if you don't mind.
Oh,
mute your mic, Mr. Loper.
Mute it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Yes, sir. My name is Julie Colora with Louisiana Victim Outreach, and I'm going to read a statement written by Miss Rachel Weed, one of the victims. I never thought in a million years I would receive a letter notifying me that he was up for parole. It never crossed my mind that my worst fear could become true in real life, and now it could be in the matter of months. But somehow it did, and I am terrified of what the outcome could be. There are so many things that he has taken away from not only me, but also my family. He took away my childhood, and I will never get that back. I lost my innocence the moment he decided to victimize and take advantage of not only me as a child, but several other children. I lost the ability to be able to trust anyone in my life, which makes it hard to develop relationships with new people when you cannot trust anyone you are around. It took me almost 20 years to take a bath without having a panic attack, because he would come into the bathroom while I took a bath and made sure I washed the inside of my vagina correctly. And if he didn't think I did right, he would do it for me. I cannot drink Hawaiian punch anymore because all I taste is the drugs, or vitamins, as he called it. I hyperventilate and freak out every time I see someone that even remotely resembles him in any way in public, because I am so afraid that he is going to try to find me and do horrible things to me all over again. I could go on and on about the things in my life that he has taken from me. The worst thing he took from me was my sense of being. My family was not the same after what he did. Not only did I lose all my friendships, because all of a sudden I was not allowed to do anything, I lost my mother. She looked at me different. She looked at me with shame throughout the rest of my childhood and into my teens, not because of what happened to me, but because she did not protect me from him. She could not protect me from a man that chose to harm little children for his benefit. So she blamed herself for years and still does to this day. I eventually had to move 2 states away to get away where no one knew me and started over. But this move did not take away the pain and disappointment that was brought onto me and my family. He was not just a stranger off the streets. He came into our lives and made us trust him and made us believe that he was helping us. He bribed us with outings and toys and all kinds of things that we never got to have because we were not the wealthiest. He used us because he figured we were an easy target and he could get away with it. He planned everything. I tried to tell people, but no one seemed to care, let alone believe me. I once told one of the boys and they said to me, "There is no way he could be doing those things. Stop making up lies or you'll ruin it for all of us." So I kept my mouth shut and endeavored all the pain and hurt to make it better for the kids around me. Eventually the truth came out and he was arrested, but that still did not save me from all the pain that he already caused in my life. I spent most of my life in and out of therapy to deal with the trauma that he has caused and is still affecting me every day. If he is granted parole, I do not want him to have contact with me or my family. I do not want him to be able to work or live in Webster Parish where I reside. I do hope that he is not granted parole and that he has to at least finish his sentencing. In my eyes, he will always be a serial sexual predator that should not be able to live freely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Fitzgerald. Ms. Fitzgerald, is anything you'd like to say from Caddo? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Okay. Well, as the board knows, we're very strongly opposed. I don't think there's anything left that I could say that hasn't already been said. I mean, Ms. Grace Ann summed it all up, and we are very much opposed. I know the drugs have been mentioned, but that's a real legit thing. Like, one child did test positive for benzodiazepines, we know. And like the other said, there's no telling how many victims there really are that we don't know about. And, you know, the risk is just too great.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Fitzgerald. At this time, David Wade, Mr. Dagenhart, anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I want to thank you for the opportunity, for everyone who wanted to speak today on this. I listened carefully to what everyone had to say. I'm asking you for something I don't deserve, which is grace and mercy to be able to go home to Tennessee and help my parents and sister. The sexual abuse that I committed, I was wrong. My actions were despicable and completely selfish. My choices caused tremendous pain and harm, and I apologize. No punishment could ever make up for what I did. I take complete responsibility for my crimes. I am sorry for hurting people, and I pray daily for healing for everyone. I can't change what I've done. I can only try to change myself, grow, and get better here, so whenever I leave, I will be safe and successful. You have my record at David Wade. I don't need to read that. In Tennessee, I will have family support and supervision, as well as registration, community notification, and strict accountability of a parole officer. Tennessee requires counseling. I've already said I'll go to 12-step groups and have the support of co-counselors in Knoxville, work for my business, help my parents every way that I can. I have a plan to succeed and never hurt anyone else. I've been successful there before, when I lived with my parents and sister for 11 months on bond. I worked doing landscaping, went to church, played music, helped my folks, and began sex offender counseling. And the only time that I was around children was at church when I was supervised. Life in here, in many ways, is simple and easy compared to out there. But I did well then and will do even better if I'm given the opportunity to now. My family has given me so much, and I hurt and disappointed them. They've been there for me while I've been here, and I want to be there for them now while I still can. They need me, and I need them too. I never understood that before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No other one, anyone would like to speak? This time, Ms. Pearl Wise will be voting. Ms. Wise?
In consideration of all the information and Mr. Jonathan, the things that you've done in the prison, but however, due to the overwhelming victim opposition, my vote is to deny your request for parole this morning. And there's also law enforcement opposition, so that is my vote, sir.
At this time, I'm going to vote to deny. Reason the voting deny, very, very strong victims opposition. Also very strong law enforcement opposition from judges, DAs, sheriffs on down. So that is my vote today. Mr. Victor Jones, unmute your mic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Melville, I also will pray for Mr. Dagenhart. I've listened to all the victims, listened to all what's been said here. And the only thing that's on my mind right now, I have 6 granddaughters. 6 granddaughters. That keeps coming to my mind from ages 6 to 21. That's my age of my granddaughters. My vote this morning would be to deny.
Okay. Thank you very much. Today's vote is to deny. Thank each and every one that's participated here today. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Wise.
Thank you.
Cockroach. What a sick creature. We have seen so many on so many levels, but I don't think we've seen one that had embedded himself in society on every possible level so that he could have access to as much children as possible. He wasn't just a teacher. He wasn't just a nanny. He wasn't just applying to adopt children to be a foster parent. He wasn't just a youth minister. He was all those things. His life was completely about how can he get and abuse as many children as possible. The idea that he's not life behind bars just makes no sense. It's madness. It's madness. You know what else is madness? The other cockroach in the room, without a doubt in my mind, David Melville. He's such a tool. He types into his Zoom, spiritual advisor. Spiritual advisor? What? The only difference between you, David, and Jonathan is that you haven't been caught yet. In my opinion. This is just my humble opinion. Deal with it. He was his spiritual advisor, not recently, going back years. What do you think they spoke about? What do you think they were advising on? And then he has the straight up audacity to say that 15 years is enough time. And that he asks that the victims can find in their hearts to forgive him and to one day pray for him? Are you mad? Birds of a feather flock together. And I'm looking for something else, but cockroaches, they also hang out together, right? Was that what it is? And he goes on to say, as he prays for you, we are all in this together. Are you freaking kidding me? We are all in this together, like this is some kumbaya party that we're all in this together? No. There are some things that you just can't. You can't. Wait till I unpack this. Thank you, Richard, for finding this, pointing this out. He graduated from college and became a school teacher at Hamilton Terrace Alternative School in Shreveport, Louisiana, where he taught for 8 years. 8 years. He was a regular and active church member and a respected member of the community. He was a CASA volunteer and he applied to be a foster parent. Friends thought he was a well-meaning person who wanted to work with at-risk children, and no 32-year-old single man should ever be allowed to become a foster parent. Society needs to wake up. You cannot take the chance, the off chance. That's just the way it is. Petitioner was, however, using his relationship with children to satisfy his sexual cravings. After pleading guilty, he admitted to compulsive behavior, videotaping cheerleaders and children at sporting events at middle and high schools, compiling videos to later, do that to the images. He admitted that his attempt to become a foster parent and his service as a CASA volunteer were designed to further his contact with children. Well, At least you admitted it, you roach. Also, by the way, court-appointed special advocates for children. Yes. He kept several children's bathing suits at his home, and he had a pass to Watertown Park so he could take children swimming. After his arrest, photographs were found at his home with young girls in bathing suits. Victims' offense were girls ranging from the age of 2 to 10 years old. 2 years old, as we saw. Although, as gracefully stated, she is not a victim. She is a survivor, Maggie, and she spoke like a true survivor. And she buried that roach in the ground. The victims would spend nights at his apartment, and he often insisted they sleep in the bed with him. He also asked them to take a vitamin that made them sleepy, and the girls sometimes woke up with their undergarments removed or pulled down. Some complained that their privates were oily or greasy when they woke. A couple children awoke with him physically on top of them. I can't read all this. Here's the newspaper article that goes into other details again. Thank you, Richard. During the course of the investigation, he had been appointed a teacher, which we went over. Superintendent Robert Schiller said there is nothing in his record but satisfactory evaluations by his immediate supervisor. Of course, because and look how dangerous. He looks normal. He looks like that. He is the scariest of predators, the absolute most dangerous that exist. A wolf in sheep's clothing. A cockroach disguised as a kitten. A teacher. A 32-year-old mother, once asked her younger daughter, a 13-year-old, to babysit for him. My daughter wasn't going to babysit for anybody I didn't know. Smart mom. Police became suspicious when acquaintances complained that he was using special camera housings to film children underwater at public pools. That's when they went to his house and done 100 videotape recordings and 2 separate searches in his home. Here's another one. Facts of procedural. He was sentenced to 15 years at hard labor and $10,000. It's just crazy that he wasn't given more time. He pled guilty to 4 of the 10 counts, with the other 6 counts being dismissed. After a lengthy hearing, defendant was sentenced to 10 years at hard labor and a $5,000 fine on counts 1 and 2 and 4, and he was sentenced to 15 years. And so what was it? A total of 25 years. And that's like the highest we've seen in Louisiana, basically. At the time of the arrest, he was 32 years old. And he was able to bond out, if you could believe that. He stayed with his parents approximately 11 months. His mother, his enabler mother, who thankfully was it Grace, called out, and then the mother made this face and this gesture with absolutely no respect. Here. During the time he registered, and he joined a church affiliated sexual addiction counseling services. Oh, could you believe it? He's such a good guy. When he bailed out, he joined a church for sexual addiction. You kidding? What? That's not even where, that's not, he joined the coke count. I can't. What? That's not what you need. You need to be locked up forever. He was subjected to a battery of tests by Dr. Jerry Perlman and Peter Young, two psychologists associated with Tennessee Sex Offender Treatment Board. I wonder what that said. You can't make it up, but I'm not surprised at all. Wow. I'm not surprised. A sentencing hearing was conducted during the 3-day period, right? Dr. Paul Ware, a Shreveport psychiatrist, and Dr. Lisa Harper, a Shreveport psychologist, testified for the defendant. Okay, so, these doctors have absolutely no self-respect. It's like, oh, pay me by the hour, I'll say whatever that you want. They testified that she reviewed the reports of doctors Perlman and Young and conducted her own tests. She's a very smart doctor. And they both came up with the opinion that the test showed a low likelihood of recidivism. Yeah, show me these doctors so we can at least call them out for what they are. Disgusting. How can you wake up and look yourself in the mirror? The defendant was a good candidate for rehabilitation and a structured program. Dr. Harper's and Ware both agreed that pedophiles generally underreported their act. Oh, they agree that we get to numbers that are scary here. Dr. George Seiden of Shreveport testified for the state. It's really sick, these doctors. Who are they? I mean, it's like, you have no shame. You are. At what point do you sell your soul? How much did it pay you for you to say that? How much did it pay you for you to say that? What point did you say, you know what, $600 or $1,000 or oh yeah, you know what? I'll get up on the stand and say he has a low chance of. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is by far the most clear case that he will reoffend. No questions asked. He's the worst. Oh, doctors. Now let's look at the other side. Dr. George Seiden, a Shreveport psychiatrist, testified to the state. He examined the reports of Dr. Harper, Ware, Perlman, and Young. Dr. Seiden also conducted interviews with the defendant. Dr. Seiden disagreed with the assertions that the defendant was a good candidate for rehabilitation. He was likely to repeat his offenses. Dr. Seiden noted that the defendant committed these acts having seen counselors. Dr. Seiden testified that pedophiles underreported their acts of a ratio of 30 unreported offenses to every known offense. And I would say that is probably generous. In this case, it could be hundreds or even thousands. He also applied for the next 20 years with pedophile of the defendant's age has a recidivism of 75%. 75%. Where they come up with these numbers, I mean, I don't know, because of course, who are we to judge the prison report that they have where it says that they have a low risk score? Sorry, little did I know 75% is low. Shame on us, guys. You know, we're not PhDs. We don't work for the government. So we're just dumb, you know, citizens. We don't, we what do we know? He originally admitted to 10 acts. So according to this data, him admitting to 10 would actually mean 300. And we know it's way more than 300. He stated that he had 13 to 15 children between the ages of 3 and 12. He detailed his effort to seek treatment after his arrest. I mean, you can't make it up. It just doesn't get more sick than this. The trial court found the defendant to be a devious, deceptive, manipulative, and dangerous person who needs to be incarcerated to protect the public. Wow, I could not agree with these words more. Thank you. The trial court noted the defendant ingratiated himself with the children's families in order to become in contact with them. And still they only gave him a total of 25 years. Why? Why? He's going to be getting out soon. He's going to be, as the time of us doing this, he's going to be getting out in about 4 years. And then what? And then what? It was interesting to hear one of the judges talk about his granddaughters. You know, but I maybe I have to watch more of them. This is not judges, parole board members. I wish they would say that more often. But the survivors spoke gallantly. And the supporters, they spoke just like roaches. The contrast between good and evil, it couldn't be more evident. That's a remarkable thing. It's night and day, good and evil. Right and wrong. All here for us to see it. And if there's anything that we can at least see in this case is at least he will be locked away, and the kids were safe for this 25 years. When he gets out, don't know what's gonna happen. But that's part of why we do this. That's part of why we do this. The world will know. If someone is nervous about him when he somehow tries to find a way to get, marry someone with young kids, or he's going to do something. Hopefully someone will be smart enough to Google him, and instead of finding some old newspaper through deep research or trying to find some state law document, no, this YouTube video will pop up. And hopefully they'll be able to protect their family. But with that, I let you go.